This morning discussing bullying at schools in this country. It's a cause for concern, clearly, and we've heard from a lot of people who are calling us this morning. Call us on 0891 104 208. Particularly, we would like to hear. Parents, what do you do about these things? Share your experiences with us then. 0891 104 208. I'm going to go to my guest then for responses, but let me read you some SMSs. Somebody says, what do you do if it's done by a 5-year-old to another 5-year-old? Another one says, learning self-defense saved my life. So your panelist who does not want children to learn self-defense is horribly misguided. There's also an SMS that says, children who cannot defend themselves encourage bullies, thieves and rapists. Victims must learn self-defense or they remain soft targets. John in Mafikeng says, where I come from, it's simple. You bully my child, I will sort you out at the school gate. That way, bullying has disappeared from our school. Rose in Durban says, the first time a bully comes at you, punch his or her lights out. Bullies are cowards and they prey on the weak and run from courage. Another one says, in fact, it comes from Tony in Cape Town, who says, we do not have a proper disciplinary process. Let me start with the MEC of Education here in Gauteng for responses. Barbara Chrissy, how would you respond to my callers and some of the SMSs?
Look, I think the key to all of this, and really it's the key to a successful education in general, is the three-way relationship: learner, parent, and child. Learner, parent, and educator. Yeah. So it's very important, generally speaking, for parents to have a relationship with their child's class teacher. And obviously that relationship would then allow a parent to be able to raise any issue that they were concerned about, including and in particular bullying. I think that one does want to see a situation where we model assertive behavior to our children. Now, assertive behavior doesn't mean going around clapping people, but it does mean having a sense of what your rights are and being able to stand up for yourself and for your child when you feel that those rights are being infringed. So I think that's very important, but the point that one of your listeners raised about involving the school is, for me, central. So parents need to listen to these complaints from their children, they need to take them seriously, and they need to go and have a conversation with the school. I would say the idea of a parent waiting at the gate to confront a child can have unintended consequences. Because what can happen is that you will meet the parent of that child and then you will have two adults slugging it out at the school gate. What kind of example does that set to your own children and to the school community about how you want matters to be handled? So I would be the first to say that we have to admit as the department that our institutions don't always take this seriously and parents do get the brush off. So that's something that we have to work on, working with principals, working with educators to say this thing is serious and please take these complaints seriously. But at the same time, really saying to parents, we need you to get involved in this because we're not going to be able to solve it without you.
Sure, but there's a sense of frustration. So, sorry, and I'm going to go to my other, because there's a sense of frustration from some of the parents that have called to say that it becomes our problem only as parents. There are no clear guidelines about how to deal with this matter. So that creates a bit of frustration, as you can hear from the tone.
Yes. And I think one of the things, look, we have a school safety policy. The issue of bullying is addressed in that policy. Really what I think the question is when a principal or an educator gets this complaint, do they go and look at the policy and see how they're supposed to handle it? And most of the time they don't. So our job, and that's what we're wanting to do following our colloquium last week, is to do more educational work in the training that we already have with educators and principals on this important issue and how you handle it.
All right, I'm going to get Goodness to respond to some of the, including, by the way, Anonymous in Cape Town, who was concerned about these expelled kids. They're
placed in a school, by the way, Kolani. I wanted to say that. They've been placed in other schools.
Oh, all right. So they're still in the schooling system, except not in this particular school. All right, that answers that question. Lorato in Kempton Park, hello.
Good morning, Kolani and my guest.
Welcome.
I think, as one of the first callers said, it is important for us as parents to listen and observe our kids. For instance, in my case, my 10-year-old is not a violent kid, but he started bullying his younger sister. And of course, the first instinct was to think that it may be Ben 10 because he's a huge Ben 10 fan. So we attributed that to him watching a lot of violent cartoons. So perhaps he was projecting on that. But you see, then the schooling system helped us in this way. Every day at school where he's attending school, they write how they feel that morning, and they also tell the class how they're feeling. And every week on Fridays, we get that book. So as parents, we are able to read how my son would have been, was feeling the entire week. And in that way, we were then able to pick up that, in fact, there was one day where he was unhappy because there was an incident that was about bullying. And I tell you, the first instinct as a parent was that I must take him to karate classes so that he can defend himself. And the first instance, my wife's response was that, no, we must take him out of the transport because the incident was actually not happening at the school, but in the transport that he was using from school to home. But you see what helped us, and I think that this is what parents should do. We need to respond from a calm point of view. Once we had calmed down and we had spoken to the teacher, only then we realized that the one sensible way would be use the channels that are available to us. For instance, report this kid. Of course, then his parents were called to the school. It was then solved amicably. And in fact, this kid wrote us a letter to say that he was sorry that he was bullying our son. So I'm saying if we had been emotionally charged as we were initially and almost have not even observed that our child was being bullied, this could have been aggravated. And even as MEC Barbara Chris was saying, that it would have unintended consequences if we are not as calm as we should be in responding to these.
Sure. Lorato, I thank you very much for sharing your story with us, Lorato in Kempton Park. Goodness, let me ask you to respond broadly to some of the comments that we've heard so far. It seems on SMS that people are disagreeing with you on the issue of self-defense.
Okay, Kolane, maybe I should clarify that matter. The one thing that I possibly didn't come out very clearly, self-defense is okay, but in terms of how we recommend children should respond to a bully is that the child shouldn't fight back. Now, there's a difference between fighting back and defending yourself, because they could be coming out, as a group, maybe or two of them. You. At that point, you should be able to, to defend yourself, but not necessarily putting on fire and fighting back to a point where you actually really fighting them, because that is exactly some of the guidelines that we are recommending, to say if you are a learner and somebody is fighting you or something, do not fight back. Stay calm, but the child would have to check as to whether now I'm in a very dangerous position. So a person is hitting me. Then the self-defense is fine, as long as it is clarified that the self-defense is used to hit other people, even if there is nothing happening to you.
All right.
That's what I need to clarify. But secondly, Kolane, there's that spoke about the TRC kind of an approach.
It was Hugh in Cape Town.
Yes, I would like to come in very strongly on that, in a sense that, in fact, there is a effective approach that I'm a proponent of, where a child who is perpetrated against another child together with the families, and so that, what normally happens is that when a child reports that has been bullied, somebody just emotionally responds and punish the perpetrator. Now, the perpetrator needs to understand what the consequences are for, what happened, what did I do. So the restorative approach says you take responsibility for what you have done, and you actually have an opportunity to listen to the victim when the victim actually tells you how the incident or your actions has actually affected him, so that the perpetrator understands that this is what I have done to another person. Because often children, they do some things, because in our research it has been shown that some of them do not even understand that their actions had consequences, because they agreed, some of them, to say that they have bullied other children.
Okay.
So when we asked, if they knew the consequences of what they were saying. Some of them knew, some of them they didn't.
Okay,
so
goodness.
it is imperative that they understand the consequences of their actions.
Jita, I'm going to come to you.
They must make amends, which is very much important.
Okay. Jita, I'm going to come to you in a second. Let me take some calls. Anonymous in Tshwane, good morning.
Good morning, Kolani.
Hi, welcome.
Kolani, there is one aspect that I'm not hearing a lot of. It's on the aspect of the cellular phone providers.
Yeah.
Because over and above the fist fights and bullying and self-defense and all of that, there's a kind of bullying that happens through cell phones whereby kids, I know in 2007, as far back as then, my daughter was subjected to horrible bullying through something like a site or something that is set up on a cell phone, and a lot of kids are going to say a lot of things that have actually led to the suicide of other girls, whereby there's a lot of things, terrible things that any child is not going to be able to know how to handle. And I found that the school was very sympathetic. It was a very small school, very small private Roman Catholic school. But they didn't know what to do. And the police did not know what to do. And the cell phone providers really do not have an answer for you. But it's happening on their networks. And I was told at the time, which was 5 years ago, I was told that, no, there's actually nothing that they can do,